Fantastic. All right, everybody. My name is Logan Baldwin. I am the brand new executive director of Klamath Film, taking over for Cassidy and also Kurt, the interim director. He is now officially in Eugene. He has moved. He's gone, but not forgotten. Uh, uh, this is our March meeting. We'll do some announcements and news, and then we'll do some introductions and what have you been watching. So I'm gonna just think about what you've been watching, because I'm gonna ask you about it. And then in 20 minutes or so, we will have our featured guest, Dawn Jones Redstone, who is she is a filmmaker who has submitted multiple times to KISS, like maybe the past 4 years in a row or so. And we'll talk to her for a little bit. So I guess we'll start with announcements in the news. The Oscar shorts, our screening, we did it. We did it. It was my first event. I know Larry was there. Would you remind me of your name?
Molyneux, and I'm a reporter for the Herald News, and I'm a new member.
Oh, fantastic. Great.
So,
I remember seeing your name now when it came through. Great, fantastic. Did you go to the Oscar short screening?
I wasn't able to.
That's okay.
I know Kurt helped me with an assignment. I'm working on my PhD right now.
Oh yeah, very nice.
My focus is women in environment now.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Very cool.
A part of the group would give me a more in-depth understanding of where we evolved from.
What's the PhD in?
History.
Very nice.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, so we did our Oscar short screening, and I, for one, had a great time. It was really cool to watch all of those. We did correctly predict the winners at the actual Oscars, because we sent the ballots out and everybody voted, and I counted them up at the end and I posted it. The winner for the best animated short was The War Is Over. It was inspired by the music of John and Yoko, and that was cool. And then the one for live action short film was The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, and that was the Wes Anderson one, and that was very, very cool, and I really enjoyed that. Anything to add about the Oscar shorts?
I mean, I loved, like, the vast majority of selections were wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at the winners. Also, but all the same is that, like, they weren't my favorite picks. I mean, at the same time though, I love Wes Anderson, but also it's just like he has so much weight and is such a fantastic filmmaker. It's like kind of like it was, at least for the live action shorts, it was his film and then everybody else's.
Yeah,
but
totally. I think you're exactly right. He had the most star power. He had the most name recognition.
But I still like a amazing, incredible film.
Absolutely.
So it's not even like it's necessarily undeserved.
Right. No, totally. I totally agree. The production value and the set,
yeah,
all beautiful and amazing and gorgeous.
The towards the day before at the Oscars?
No. They announced. Do you mean do they announce
announcing the awards?
Yeah.
No, they did it then.
They
did it then and there. And the people who did The War Is Over, they got up and accepted their award, but Wes Anderson was not there actually. Somebody accepted it for him. Oh, you know what it was? I remember. I don't remember who it was, but he was up there. It was the presenter that accepted for it. He was like, "We knew you could do them long, but you can also do them short, and that's great." And I was like, that was really weird.
I mean, in other Oscar news, I know that John Cena kind of made some waves.
Yeah. John Cena was interesting for sure.
I heard, unconfirmed, so I may be incorrect, but I heard that he did not tell anyone he was planning on walking out on stage in the nude, which is very bold of him, I must say. But here's the thing: is that, like, if I had a body like him, sure, I'd be happy to show it off as well.
Interesting. I don't know. He's so weird looking, but anyway, he is. I mean, great. He just puts a lot of work into it. But
John Cena is not the first person who's been live nude on the Oscar stage.
Oh yeah,
Yes. There was a streaker in 1972 or 1973 that ran out. David Niven was speaking.
Right. Totally. Did anybody?
If we want to touch on the Oscar shorts for a minute, for those who attended, in terms of just what their individual favorites were, I thought that this year's program, having seen this program for several years now, was not nearly as emotionally intense and draining
No, it
as
wasn't.
past years have been. It was a lot more lighthearted in structure, which was good. It still was intense, but it wasn't like one giant body blow and uppercut after another, as some of the programs have been in past years, where you just feel like you need to get a beer and a shower afterwards.
Yeah.
So, but it was still pretty intense. I thought the single most shocking film far and away was Red, White, and Blue. I thought that film was absolutely remarkable in structure and story, and had such a cool twist to it. Um, and is so pertinent in terms of today's political spectrum, being able to present that message and get people to at least start talking and thinking about all of these, sweeping abortion rules taking place, and it's really gutsy for that film crew to take on a production like that and tell that story.
Yeah, and I truly think that if you are going to write a film or a story around a gigantic rug pull, that's the way you do it. That you like lead breadcrumbs, 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 but it's been entirely in not the direction you've been thinking it's going the entire time, and then it just like it sweeps the leg and just knocks you out.
It sure does. It sure does, and they do it in such a cool way.
Yeah, and then
too.
also with like you say, Kurt, with the much different overall vibe of the shorts this year, it almost gets like the conspiracy theorist in my brain is just like, do you think that they've almost done that intentionally because they've developed such a reputation over the years of just getting like the most intense films that just like rock audiences that, okay, we'll throw them a bone this year.
I do think that they've learned their lesson from feedback of past years where
Yeah.
it was just so bludgeoning emotionally that they decided let's structure this one that it ends on a happy note.
Yes.
Not just starts on a happy note and then gets very dark and morbid. And so I think they were very intentional in the way that they put the films together in terms of the order. I thought that this year's program, while it wasn't the best overall collection of films that they've done, I think in terms of recent years, really high quality content, top to bottom, with all of the films. And I always appreciate the shorts because it tends to be a more international category than any other one, and so we got a nice variety of things from like Denmark and Canada and France and all that. Um, and in general, they seem to accept more comedy this year than they have in past years, and things that aren't straight comedy but had a lot of humor in them. Like people seem to really like that Knights film from Denmark.
I was just gonna say, Kurt, that was one of my favorites too, because it was such a poignant way to deal with something so dark, and it definitely balanced very well in terms of like balancing the heaviness of grief and then just adding that comedic splash in there, and the twist about it with the guys. It really it made me very happy to kind of see that represented in a way, like there's not a lot of representation of like grieving out there. And I thought that it was done very well.
And I could especially piggyback off of that too, of that I'm a huge advocate of exploration of anytime that you have concepts or subject matter that is dark, but approaching with a bright and upbeat tone. I think there is so little of that in filmmaking, and it's such an interesting and engrossing means or way of like approaching a story that it's nice to see it at least getting represented more.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
I do think that between the selections of outside of the ones in my eyes, like this year, the winners this year were the ones that were like the most, again, they were great films, but just like gimmies of like, of course people are going to go for the John and Yoko film, and of course people are going to go for the Wes Anderson film. But my favorites outside of those were definitely 95 Senses and Invincible. Because I think also to what we were talking about is 95 Senses is also an incredible example of like happy and upbeat with some darker subject matter, but approaching it in more of like a lighthearted tone. It's still somber at the end, and it's still like, it talks about some like relatively heavy subject matter, but the way that it also approaches it with good humor and it gets the audience both laughing and thinking, which is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, 95 Senses when it's talking about capital punishment, death row, and murder, but it's doing it in a very indifferent way with this just happy-go-lucky character that is just kind of quirky and fun. So it's able to tackle a difficult subject in such a lighthearted manner, which is a very difficult balance to achieve. So that's not just good storytelling, that's good acting too, in terms of
the delivery of just I can't remember the exact line, but the transition from just like, yeah, I love that job when I was 19. And that's why I burned down the mechanic shop. But just the sheer transition was like just incredible. And then like that gets you laughing. And then literally the next line afterwards is just like, and I didn't realize his family was in there. It's like, oh my gosh. It makes the audience regret laughing just 2 seconds earlier, which is like an incredible thing to do.
Absolutely. And a great performance too from Tim Blake Nelson. Yep. Amazing. Good. Anybody else got anything to say about the Oscar shorts?
I think it all flowed really well. I think it flowed really well, and it wasn't boring at all. I mean, every one was unique.
Absolutely.
On both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great. I had a great time too. I just love the theater. Like you can watch some of those short films at home, some of them, if you can find them, right? But being there with the audience and getting all of the laughs and all of the gasps at it's electric. And I absolutely love that about the theater experience, So it's so cool that we do that.
The only thing I wish is that our theater had better like sound insulation, because I could hear Dune 2 in the next theater over. While the
One Love, there was a lot of reggae coming through the wall as well.
I think in either direction. When you hear like the big sweeping, like the boom boom of like the super dramatic moments of Dune, it's just like it's a little bit noticeable. But it just
in the quiet like moments where you're supposed to like they drop the line or whatever, and it's just kind of like this, oh my gosh, that I totally. I'm autistic, so it's like I'm hypersensitive to stuff like that. So I was like, no.
Yeah, but I imagine it's like still a great film and didn't really detract from the experience. Just made me realize, like, maybe I should go watch Dune 2 or Part 2. Yeah,
absolutely. Get back in the theater.
I was really happy. We had a really nice turnout for the event as well. It came out being about 80 people in all, which is pretty on point for us, pretty standard, but it was the first time in a couple of years that we'd done that event at the Pelican. And so bringing it back there, especially when there were multiple new films out that weekend, it was a really big task to get people to want to come to our event and not go see the brand new films. So I was very happy with the audience turnout and how all of that played out. I thought the event went just fine.
I was so impressed by some of the trivia whizzes.
I think Kat was actually our big winner. I think Kat, didn't you get more and more trophies than
I got 2, but I did there were some other people that were like, hey, stop answering, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I just really love trivia.
It's fun.
How many did you win?
Well, I did just get 2, but I mean, I answered a couple different other ones, like I know that the one that I got was about the Joaquin brothers.
Oh
yeah. I remember my very first one though. The question that Kurt had asked the first time I ever went to one of the short film festivals was about it was about Beauty and the Beast, and how it won in like 1991 or something. But yeah.
That was the only time that an animated film was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
We have a chat that we're just gonna read through.
Clint's just put in that he's sad that he missed the event, which is okay. What usually happens, Clint, is that after the Oscars are over in about a month or two, you'll see a package of the Oscar shorts pop up on Netflix or Amazon or one of the streaming services that will say, check out the Oscar shorts, and it'll run for a couple of months. So you will have an opportunity to track it down. You just kind of have to dig a little bit into the streaming services, but eventually there will be some of those films available. And then 1 or 2 of them that come out directly on the streaming services. Right now, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar is on Netflix and is available there. And I'm sure a couple of the others will start popping up. Usually post Oscars, these films get so much notoriety that they'll start signing contracts to be able to have their
Yeah.
film streaming.
I'm
Such a
curious
shame
about
that it's
that,
not
the honorable
post-nomination.
mention one.
Mhm.
The
Hip.
cat, the I'm hip one.
Hip.
Oh
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
I love that one.
I really love that one a lot. I was sad it didn't actually get nominated. I'm hoping to see it on streaming services because it was just so adorable and like I could recognize the voice of the guy who did it and everything. Like yeah. So I don't know if you know anything about that, Kurt, but like I hope that that it actually takes to streaming services.
I think,
I'm not sure if it's on a streaming service now, but I mean that film was a giant loving tribute to classic Hanna-Barbera and Looney Tunes. So
I imagine that bare minimum, like to me, it almost feels like it is structured to me. It feels like a short film you would find on YouTube.
yeah.
And
And
that,
then
like, I can imagine that it could it's bound to pop up somewhere that it'll be around that we can that you can find it short.
there is a shorts channel that's on DirecTV.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, the same, that's why I thought they got it from there, because when they said shorts up there, that was the same logo they used.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I'm Hip was made by a former Disney director and animator named John Musker. And so I don't, it may be that because of his close affiliation to Disney for so years that Disney Plus may pick it up, but there's nothing really definitive about where it's going to be right now. And then the other honorable mention film was the Life of a Salmon film
Yes.
with women scuba divers as being
I wanted that one to be nominated very badly.
Me too. Extremely effective. All
Yeah,
right.
people seemed very shocked when one of the scuba divers had their head cut off and like
Oh yeah, just like
what,
throw
what do you think happens with fish when they're being harvested?
Yeah.
Honestly, is that really such a shock?
That's exactly right.
I mean, when done right, it seems like such a simple like technique, like narrative personification. Like just in storytelling, it's tried and true. It's like oldest trick in the book of, you know, personifying things that allow people to empathize with them. But we sort of forget how powerful it can be sometimes, and I think that film was a great example of it.
Yeah, no, I'm never eating salmon again. I went to Fred Meyer's the other day and I saw some and I was like, no, no, I'm good, thanks.
That's good. All right. And then we also, in terms of announcements, we got an email from somebody who is shooting a movie in Medford coming up in June. Do you know where I'm going with this, Larry?
Yeah,
You do? Great. It's Bruce Campbell.
Right,
Bruce Campbell lives in Ashland. I'm not from here. I had no idea. And so when Bowen and I went to Cameras
It
and
was a
Cocktails,
hilarious moment where we were like just sitting and there was like announcements were being talked about and everything, and then it just looked just like, and then we have wonderful Bruce Campbell here. Logan and I both looked at each other. I think we looked again and we were like, holy shit, that's Bruce Campbell.
yeah,
And
I might have
like,
grabbed you by the shirt.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell's here? I had no
I was
idea.
so stunned because
Yeah.
it's like just he blends in very well.
He does.
I do have to say.
Yeah. He sent out an email just after that at Cameras and Cocktails. What day was that? It would have been the first Wednesday.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, of the month. And he's looking for crew. He's not looking for actors, unfortunately, Larry, but he's looking for crew.
No, he is looking for actors if you read it.
Yeah, so there's like 90%. 90% casted, but that means that there's still some other parts.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, 90% cast. Okay, great.
what's the name of the movie?
It doesn't say here in the but we have his email address and we have his website. So I'm going to be sending that out to all of the members so that if they want to reach out to him and try and get a job. Now, who knows if it'll happen, but how cool would that be, right? So he's looking for lead hair and makeup. He's looking for sound, one grip, and electric. Production coordinator, some drivers, camera tech, production accountant, animal trainers and wranglers, office and set PAs, stand-ins, one male and one female. So I know you were a very experienced stand-in.
I stand in tons of things.
Yeah.
I'm perfect.
I'm great standing. props, drone operators, which we know a very good drone operator as well, and a grip, an electric truck, camera, sound, lights, rentals, and walkie-talkies and catering. So yeah, I'll be sending out an email probably tomorrow to all of our members with all of that information, as well as how to contact Bruce Campbell to work on his. I mean, it's not anything crazy for you. You've worked with tons of people, but it was cool for me.
Yeah, it'd be exciting.
Yeah, and then I figured we can go around and do introductions too formally. I guess maybe we should have done that earlier, or do we usually wait until after
I usually try to do it as soon as our guest joins. And I know we have fewer people at this meeting than we normally have, and that's totally fine. I don't know if there's something conflicting going on in Klamath right now that is drawing people away, or people just kind of forgot. It's all good. But going back to that Campbell film, just know it's a 24-day shoot that's planned that will go across May and June. That may conflict with the feature film that's scheduled to come to Klamath Falls that will also have need for a lot of those positions as well. So I just recently met a couple days ago with that production, and things are still moving forward. We don't have exact dates yet, but we're getting closer to the cameras rolling in Klamath Falls for that film.
Is that the school bus head?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
When I have more details to share, I will do so. But right now, it's still pending somewhat.
I imagine that means you don't know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You said before that Lawrence Fishburne was in talks to star. Do you know if anything's changed there?
I know that's one of the individuals that they're talking to, but I'm not part of the casting process, so I can't speak one way or the other.
Totally. Okay. Well, I see that Dawn has joined. Maybe we could go ahead and get started with introductions then.
Hello, Dawn.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I was really sad that I wasn't able to make it down to the festival this year, but I did do a call, and I'm glad to meet you all and talk today.
Well, as I told you via email, this is something that we do every month where we have some of our members get together, both in person and via Zoom. It's very casual. There's nothing scripted here. We're just chatting for a while about what we love, and that's making movies and watching movies and being a part of all of that. Your timing's great because we were just about to get introductions done, so you can actually get a sense of who we all are. So if you want to sit tight for just a minute, we'll kind of go to get a sense of everyone who's joining, and then you'll know us as well, and then we can just start chatting about some of the things that you've done in your career.
Great. So I'll kick it off. Thank you, Kurt, for that. My name is Logan Baldwin. I said before, I'm the brand new executive director of Klamath Film. I just moved to Klamath Falls in August. I'm from Tennessee. Yeah, so a long ways away. I went to school in Gallatin, which is around the Nashville area, and got an associate's in video production there. And then when my wife got accepted into law school, we moved to Memphis and lived there for 3 years, where I was a product photographer for TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And that was pretty cool. And then when she graduated law school, apparently Oregon has a huge deficit in legal professionals. So she saw that on the job board at school and was like, never been to Oregon. I was like, hey, me either. So we did it. We're young. We don't have, kids or anything. We just came right out here. And I didn't have a plan for myself for a little while, but I started coming to these meetings. And when Cassidy resigned as executive director, Kurt reached out to me and was like, hey, you've been coming to these. I know you've not got a lot going on right now. You seem cool. I know your background. Do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So that's me. And Kurt, now that he's gone, this is my first member meeting where I'm like the one in charge, totally. And this is fun. It's good. It's fun. And I think everything's going all right so far. Oh, and then so I'm also going to be asking, what have you been watching recently? And so for me, that was last week. We watched the movie Election from 1999, Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick, and I went into that relatively blind. I knew it was about high school election, student body president, that sort of thing, and then it really took a turn that I wasn't expecting, and it was awesome. It's super duper funny. It's kind of like Goodfellas almost, the way it's shot and the way it's narrated and all the like physical comedy in it. And it was really, really interesting. And I would watch it again, knowing better what to expect. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I'll just leave that part. Yeah, it's great. I really, really enjoyed it. And that's also directed by Alexander Payne, who was nominated as Best Director and Best Picture this year for The Holdovers, the Paul Giamatti like Christmas movie, kind of a Christmas movie. Yeah. And so we watched that last week, and then last night we finished up the new docuseries Quiet on the Set, and that is about Dan Schneider, who is the creator and executive producer for all of the like tween shows from Nickelodeon in the 90s and the early 2000s and stuff, and how that was apparently a terrible, terrible working environment. And there's a lot of weirdos on the set and with kids, and terrible. I mean, I really enjoyed. Okay, maybe I didn't enjoy it, but yeah, it was informative. It was well put together and very informative. I did not really enjoy watching it, but I did. And that's what I've been going on, and I will pass the microphone over to Bowen.
Oop. If art doesn't sometimes make you uncomfortable, you're not finding the right art.
I totally agree.
Here, I'm just gonna pull it closer. So, hello everyone. My name is Bowen Browder. I am the Vice Board Chair for Klamath Film, working right alongside Logan and Kurt. I am a Klamath Falls native, born and raised, spent my whole life here. Went to college here, got my associates and bachelor's here. But regarding filmmaking, I am an actor and filmmaker based here, and have been for the past 2 years now. I've been in a couple of different projects ranging from student films to short films, trying to work my way up to things like features, other projects just as they come, just trying to get more and more into it. I've been a performer of various capacities my whole life, whether that's been music as a musician, dancing. I danced ballet for 10 years, but truly it wasn't until I reached adulthood that I discovered my love for the craft, for performing, for getting into a character and being a direct part of storytelling. Stories have always been basically the most impactful part of my life, that it's something that has driven me forward, that has inspired me, and I obviously has inspired so many other people, including everyone at the table and on the call. And I had the discovery of how much I loved acting when I decided on a whim to join a high school play in my senior year in high school. And I loved it so much that it just sparked everything that has happened since then, all the way through college, just through everything. So always love talking about stories in any form, but especially film, because I think it's such a transformative and impactful medium. And getting to be a part of it is just such a treat, and getting to talk about it with other people is such a treat. Speaking of, when it comes to some of the things that I've been watching, I haven't been too busy watching films lately, just because of I've been unpacking and moving some things, because I recently moved to, I moved in with my partner recently, which is like hooray, but not important. But I've watched and rewatched the 2 Sicario films, which have been such a treat, because it made me realize just it's such well-crafted action sequences and such great tension, and that it's really good at conveying like moral ambiguity and just going through all of that. That I'm a sucker for good action sequences, especially when they're done well and that they attach good realism to it. And then of course I'm always going to butcher his name, but the director I don't even want to mention, of like he's doing Dune now. That just released, so it's nice to see like kind of the the carry-throughs between all of that. And also, I think to an extent, it's nice to see Mexico portrayed in a film without like that urine yellow filter over everything. So yeah, great movies.
Pretty good. All right, next up. Yep.
My name is Karen Molyneux, and I'm a new member. I am currently working on my PhD in history. My focus is women in silent film. I am currently also a reporter for the Herald and News newspaper here. So yeah, what have I been watching? A couple of weeks ago, I sat down and watched the very crazy film Babylon with Brad Pitt. Wow, that took a really, I got no words for the ending with Tobey Maguire on that. So that was, my husband and I talked about that for a long time. So I figured that, you know, this was a pretty significant film if we were going to sit and talk about it. So, and then the next one I finally got to see the other day, The Holdovers. I was really impressed with that one. Last year I did see
You're good.
it just escaped me all of a sudden. I did see Killers of the Flower Moon. Loved that. I took my husband with me, and he's not really a moviegoer or anything, but he really liked that one too. And then I'm sorry, the name that escaped me was Oppenheimer. Of course. So yeah, I saw both of those in the theater last year, and I was really impressed with both of them. I did see the Barbie movie. I was not a fan of the Barbie movie. I just wasn't. I don't know why. Not that it didn't have some significant messages in it, but I just didn't like, I guess maybe the delivery of it. Maybe that's where I was at. So then I treated myself this week to Cabrini. That one is in the studio or in the movies right now. And based on the life of Mother Cabrini, turn of the century America, and all the progressive reforms that were going on. And she came to New York in the throes of the height of immigration. And we all know what that looked like with tenement housing and filth in the streets, and how she turned those around and played a role in getting the Pope to back her, establishing an orphanage and a hospital in the middle of the Five Points area of New York. I think it was a good movie. I was not as impacted by Cabrini as I was Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon and The Holdovers. So that's what I've been watching.
Did you see Killers of the Flower Moon in the theater?
I did. Yes.
Was it here?
Yes, it was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When? Recently?
No, it was.
Oh, forever. Okay. Got it.
No, I want to say earlier this year. It was before that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah. But yeah, I was watching because I had seen the trailer for it quite a while ago before it showed up in Klamath Falls, and so I made sure and made a point to go see that.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, it was, and my husband and I were so very impacted by it. In fact, my husband went and bought the book. He wanted it.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
and bought the book for my mom. My mom just loved it, and she's not and I don't want to say that she's illiterate, but her reading level is not really high, but she was so moved by the book.
Great.
Yeah, so that warmed my heart. It really
Great.
did. So
That's awesome.
okay, that's all about me.
Cool. Larry?
I'm Larry Veronelli, and I've been coming to the meetings for about 5 months, and now I'm officially a member. So happy about that.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I'm gonna work on, I'm building my house out in Lake of the Woods area and Rocky Point. So I'm gonna do a little documentary on building the house from finding my lot. I've been filming little selfies of me and the trees going down. So I got about 8 or 9 trees that are going down. And so I'm going to work on that. So I'm going to call it like building on a budget in Southern Oregon.
Totally. Cool.
So that's what I'm doing with that. I've been watching from the beginning, Monk, and
Oh, yeah.
from season 1.
Totally. It's a jungle out there.
Yeah, and then also Halo.
Halo,
Tonight's the finale.
the video game series.
Yeah,
Like
but
the
it's a
series about
TV series.
the TV series about the video game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Are you enjoying that?
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say, have you ever played the games?
No.
No? Okay.
What
So,
drew you to it?
somebody recommended it, and I just started watching it from season 1, and then I went through that, and tonight's the finale.
Oh, is it? Okay, great, good, cool.
I have opinions.
Would you like to give them?
So just to note,
tell me
I
the-
don't
well,
want
you
to
don't know the
totally
ending
encroach on
because
your
it's not-
introduction.
Yeah.
But if you watch the series, if you've been enjoying it, that's great.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's actually
There were a couple of slow
Like,
points
you're
in
wrong,
it.
and here's
no.
Yeah.
No. It might even be, at least in my opinion, all the better that you did not play the games or go through that storyline before watching this series, because it has so heavily diverged from what happens in the story or what happens in the games. And just coming from, I grew up on Halo just from the games,
right.
and it's a big inspiration for what allows me to like love sci-fi so much. It's such a, it's a great story and such incredible presentation of themes and everything. But the series is just, it is so night and day different from everything. Like the best way I can explain it is, thus far in the games, John, he has never shown his face. He never takes off his helmet, and that's kind of like the idea, and that's kind of one of the interesting things that makes him a more of a mysterious protagonist and some other things like that. But I know in the series,
The last
like
3 episodes, that's when he started.
Yep, and that he takes it off, it's no problem.
But he's back in the uniform now.
Yeah. But I would say that if you like it, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do appreciate it. My recommendation is that if you wanted to look at any other Halo media that sticks more closely to like the source material, there is another, I wouldn't call it a short film, but another like film that was produced several years back called Halo Forward Unto Dawn, which might be a good perspective on it as well. So if you're still looking at other Halo content, that would be a good place to go.
That's the thing about adaptations, though, isn't it? You know, because like they're hardly, no, you're just fine. They're hardly ever as good as the original, you know? Oh, great, thank you. So if you hear that an adaptation of something is good, watch that adaptation first. And if it is good and you do like it, then go back, because the original is probably 20 times better, right? Yeah, great. Okay, Kurt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Let's defer to some of our other members first before I chime in. So Clint or Kat?
I'll go. My name's Kat, and I have lived in the Klamath area for 7 years now. And I've definitely dabbled in stage acting, here anyway. I also do music, and I'm a musician, but I just recently dipped my toes in the water with a little movie called The Private Dance a couple years ago. We did that. That was super fun. And I honestly, that really solidified my true love of film. I've always loved like going to the like watching the Oscars, you know, and the whole idea of Hollywood and everything. Although Hollywood does have its dark sides, which I definitely am anticipating watching the documentary on the Nickelodeon stars. Yeah, so I've definitely loved Hollywood and film all my life. I do also have some work in progress screenplays that I've been currently writing, a couple of adaptations and things like that, and just original ideas that I've had for short films, and maybe my film will be featured in the next couple of years. Yeah. So yeah, I've been a lover of film and Hollywood and music for a long time, musical theater too. And when I came here, the first thing I did was a stage musical or stage play, sorry, called Almost Maine, which was super fun. And then I did Pirates of Penzance a couple years later. I think Kurt, weren't you working on the sound with that or something? I can't remember.
I was doing live streaming for it.
Yeah, that's right. We did the street because it was during like the pandemic, and it was like really like people were my best friend actually tuned in to stream to watch me from Seattle. So yeah. But yeah, I guess what I've been watching lately, I've been trying to catch up on some things because I've been kind of out of the loop. Um most recently I did watch Barbenheimer, not together, but both of them. Loved Barbie and Oppenheimer. I also just recently finished watching Poor Things, and it's amazing. Oh my goodness. I totally like, I had to stop though halfway through the film. I was like, what is going on? Why is this so weird? And my brain just kind of went, "Eh." But then I picked it back up again and I was like, okay, let's watch this whole thing all the way through, and it was fantastic. The message is almost the same as Barbie. It's a more like real life version of like Barbie, and like the way that it's like the story is written. It's wow. Um and I definitely now am like, yes, Emma Stone deserved that. That was amazing. Holy cow. I love all kinds of film. I've been, I guess, more on the comedy side lately. Most recently I watched Quiz Lady, Lisa Frankenstein, Argyle. Um, One of my favorite drama films that I watched recently that I feel is I was kind of sad that they snubbed. I found out last minute they snubbed from the Oscars was The Iron Claw. That was fantastic. It was such a good. It was a very well made film. Obviously there was a lot of artistic license taken in it, but I mean, that's the industry. Um, yeah. So yeah, I just and I also one of the shorts that I've been really wanting to see that I finally found that I was able to watch, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. It was like from 2 years ago, I think. That was just incredible, very very poignant, and lots of one-liners, very inspirational. But yeah, I definitely I am very happy to be here again. And oh, you want to say hi? This is my son Jacob. He's here with me. I'm a single mama, and we're hanging out, and yeah. Uh but yeah, I've only been in the area for about 6 or 7 years, so I'm just glad to kind of get reconnected. I was part of the Klamath film like about 3 years ago now, I think. Um because I had basically joined up right when I had seen the short films and everything, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." And then just other stuff in life happened, and um so I'm just glad to be back. So yeah.
Great. Well, it's good to have you. I think Poor Things is next on my list too. I think we'll probably be watching that this weekend.
Yeah, definitely.
Another guy, Clint.
Yep, Clint. Clint, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Clint. Um, I've been in the area just about 4 years now. I let's see, how would I put this? I think I was at the actual last like in-person meeting of like Klamath Film right before like the lockdowns happened. So I've met Kurt before exactly once. How did I get into this? I used to live in the Bay Area, and I had a lot of friends that were part of SJSU's like animation program, and like in various fandoms. And one day I was sitting at home, like watching something somebody had recommended to me. I was like, I got a scanner, I got access to tracing paper. How hard can it be? That's a terrible question to ask. It's much harder than it looks, but I decided to try it anyway. So fast forward to now, I have a screenplay that I've written. I and some friends have put together a preliminary dub. Right now I'm building character rigs, and I've grown to hate Blender. Both. Eventually it'll get done. I'm hoping to submit it to KIF. It's not going to make this year's deadline. Maybe next year. What I've been watching lately has been the last thing I've watched was Asteroid City, which is really, really good. And I've also been kind of rewatching Gumball. Like I'm kind of picking up some kind of shot composition ideas from both of them. And that's where I'm at.
Very cool. I've always wanted to see Gumball, but I think it was just after my time, and I was, I wasn't watching Cartoon Network anymore. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It was just I'd moved on from that just then. And then finally, Kurt, would you like to give a quick introduction before we get into our main event?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Don's been very patient. Thank you for being a part of this. My name's Kurt Ludke. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a commercial drone operator. I worked in Hollywood for about 12 years before relocating to Southern Oregon. I just relocated back home to Eugene within the last about week or two. So I'm mostly unpacked now and getting heavily involved in the film scene in the Willamette Valley. I've already met with the local TV station here. I'm meeting with filmmakers about establishing a Eugene Film Festival again because there used to be one when I grew up here and then it kind of died. And there's also a nonprofit organization trying to establish a film studio here that I'm also helping out with while I also kind of get settled in back home. So I've made films, I've worked on film sets a lot, and I'm the former executive director of Klamath Film. As far as what I've been watching, I just finished off the Masters of the Air series the other day, which I enjoyed, but I did not think was as good as Band of Brothers or The Pacific. Just so overall, if you're a fan of the other series that Spielberg has worked on that were World War II based, still good, but I was a little disappointed in it. Just comparative. How do you beat Band of Brothers? Is one of the best war series ever made. So, and then just last night, I was over at a friend's house and introduced them to probably my all-time favorite film and the closest thing that I think to an absolute flawless masterpiece, and that is Jean-Pierre Junet's Micmacs, which I recommend to more people than I can possibly count that they need to go see that movie. And so they said, what should we watch? I'm like, I have a film that you need to see. And so Jean-Pierre Junet is a French filmmaker who always works with the same actors in almost every single film. Micmacs is a revenge story of that is very funny, very quirky. He's best known for the movie in this country, Amelie, which was Academy Award nominated. I think it even won one or two awards. So if you know Amelie, all his films have the same kind of quirky look and feel and vibe and similar actors. And Micmacs is my favorite of his that he's done. So highly recommend that. With all of that, Don, thank you so much for waiting. Appreciate it. You've gotten to know us today, so I would love to get to know a little bit about you.
Well, while you were talking, I was looking up Micmacs, which I'm not familiar with, although I have seen Delicatessen and Amelie, certainly, but I'll have to go check that out. But yeah, he has a definitely signature vibe. Yes, my name is Dawn Jones Redstone, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I started off making shorts and then worked my way up to my first feature, which now is streaming on all the major streamers. It came out late last year, and I'm currently working on a couple of scripts, two new feature film scripts that are in totally different genres, and just trying to figure out how to be an indie filmmaker in Portland, Oregon, and outside of the Hollywood system, and just trying to figure out my next moves. I watch a lot of movies, so I've definitely been to the movies. See, at the theaters, I've seen Dune. I also, as a lesbian, there's two lesbian movies in the theaters right now, and I went to go see both of them: Love Lies Bleeding and Drive Away Dolls, and they're both like weird and wild films. I could certainly talk about both of those, but and I've also just been studying films that might be connected to my feature in some way, like Her and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind are two that I've rewatched recently because of one of the scripts I'm working on is kind of a sci-fi dramedy. So yeah, I loved Her too. I'm a big Spike Jonze fan for sure. But it's a totally different genre. Like most of my shorts were dramas, and my feature is, mostly a social drama, but it has these other vibes to it. And I've just been trying to figure out, again, like something different, because I think, one, I learned a lot about distribution and the market after making my first feature. It's very different than shorts. It's like a whole other world, and there's a lot to learn about that piece. And I want to make something that I think has a bigger market, and it's basically genre film. So and just mood wise, I kind of just feel like something not so heavy these days. So that's kind of me and what I've been working on. Kurt, I didn't know that you were a drone op.
Yeah, I started flying airplanes when I was 7 years old, and
Oh,
had every
wow.
being a professional pilot, and then veered very sharply into Hollywood. And so
Hmm,
I'm both aerial and underwater as a commercial drone operator. So I'm one of the few
underwater.
people in
Wow.
Oregon who owns their own personal submarine. Uh,
Wow. That's pretty cool. That's funny. I now work part-time for like a video agency here in Portland. I still have my own business, but I've been working more and more with them. And they do kind of like larger scale projects. And we're actually going to be in Klamath Falls and doing some working for a nonprofit, most likely in May. But we were talking about getting a drone operator, but now you've moved. So I guess I'll have to ask you for some other names if you have any.
Klamath's only a couple hours away from where I'm at. I mean, I have no problem traveling to be on set. So if you need a drone operator,
Okay.
I'll
All
help.
right, we'll stay in touch. What was I supposed to say anything else? What else was I supposed to talk about here?
Well, why don't you kind of give us some insight? Okay, so first of all, we've known Dawn for several years now because Dawn has had multiple films in our film festival. And last year, your feature was a part of it, a film called Mother of Color, which now is available on what, Netflix and Amazon.
Amazon and Google Play and YouTube and Tubi is actually, oh my gosh, I didn't even watch, I never used to watch Tubi, but Tubi pays the best apparently of all the streamers. So I'm all about Tubi now. And you can watch for free. You just have to watch those ads. But yeah.
So, Mother of Color is a feature film shot in the Portland area. Can you kind of give us the basic synopsis of it?
Yeah, it's about a single mother of two who starts having these visions, and a friend tells her that her ancestors are trying to talk with her. And it's right at this moment when she has this incredible job opportunity to interview with the local commissioner. And so, but it's the next day. So as she sets out to try to get to this interview and like figure out childcare and reorganize her work schedule, these messages begin to intensify, and it's just we call it like an eerie social drama because there's like these dreams and visions to it, along with the more traditional social drama of like seeing the struggles that she goes through as a single mom.
So,
So we shot it in 2021. And it was still all the pandemic stuff, and it was super hard to do that. We use the incentive. I don't know if you know about that stuff. We basically did a bunch of fundraising, backing up. We got money from institutions, individual donors at Kickstarter, and from the state through this program. It's called the Tax Incentive Program. And then we started filming. We filmed over 3 weeks, and it's not the typical first feature because it was not like two people talking in a room. It was lots of locations and lots of actors and a protester scene, and there's a lot to it. It's very ambitious, but we wrapped it up, and then I was invited to screen it in Poland at this event called US Works in Progress. And then that was kind of the first screening. The film wasn't totally finished then, but that just kind of kicked off the festival run. And then screened all around the country, New York multiple times, LA multiple times, San Antonio, Seattle, Klamath, Portland, St. Louis, just like all around the country. That was so much fun to get to travel and talk with people watching your film. Like anytime I could go, I did. And then started these conversations about finding a distributor, and ended up signing with a distributor to then get on these platforms. And I had to learn about that process because with short films, there isn't as much of a market for them. Although I do have one of my films does have distribution through Collective Eye, which is a distributor here in Portland, but that film actually still makes money. It's pretty unusual to have a short that does that, but I had to learn all about like this whole other language, AVOD, TVOD, SVOD, like all the different places a film can land and the different deals and all that stuff. So I was really thrilled to finally, go back and like do the final packaging and deliver it so that we could release it so that an even bigger audience can find it. And now it's, I'm a movie fan as much as you. I love there's this group of people getting together to just like talk about movies. I grew up, as a youngster in San Antonio, Texas, and my dad used to take us to like these art house films that you wouldn't think to take kids to. And, we'd have like a stack of films on the weekends, and he was a movie lover, and he just like passed that on to us. And it's a thrill of a lifetime to like make my own film and then see how people gather and connect around it. And I think that's the best thing about films, really, is just the connections.
Cool. So anyone in person at Growler Guys or on this call is welcome to just kind of chime in, as this is just a very kind of casual conversation, getting to know Dawn, some of her work. Dawn, if you have any advice or recommendations or suggestions for things people can do, feel free to chime in, but just try again to get a sense of your career, how you got into filmmaking, the path that you've gone on to going from just being a film fan growing up in Texas to now being a filmmaker professionally, and making that step that not a lot of people do from, just making short little films on their own for the sake of making films, to actually being able to make a living off of it, and streaming services and actual distribution. I mean, that's always a big jump. Then people wonder, how do I even make that launch?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm making a living. I haven't have a job, but I do work in film with my own business, and I'm using my skills as a filmmaker to earn a living, I would say. But in terms of like making a living off of it, that's one of the things I learned about how you could do that. And I think the things that I did are not necessarily, weren't going to set me on a path to do that. Like, for example, if you were to look at like, what is for low budget films, what's the best way to make money? Do you know the answer to this question? What kind of film would you make? Anyone? Horror film. Yes, horror films are look at like Blair Witch or some of these other films where people don't care as much about they'll watch it. Or what's that? Terrifier is that what's called? That I'm not a horror fan, but these like super like made for $30,000, and then people come to watch it because it's a good story. You can do that with horror. What?
Paranormal Activity was like $11,000 or something.
Right. Yeah. The security cameras and stuff. Yeah. Just like creepy, creepy images of the kid over the bed or whatever. Yeah. It's not dramas. Drama films are. If you have a drama film, you're supposed to have a name actor in it, because first of all, not as many people watch dramas, period. And then second of all, they want to, if you are going to watch a drama, usually it's because there's like someone you recognize in it. So there's this sort of like, monetary scientific approach to filmmaking, which I don't like to take into account. Like, I want to tell the stories that I want to tell, but if I want to have the money to tell the stories, I do have to take it into account. So I think a lot more about that stuff, which I never did before, and I didn't have to with short films. So I want to be able to access bigger budgets, and that means that I pay attention to that stuff now. But in terms, like, just interrupt me because I can keep talking for a long time. But if somebody has a question or anything, I started making shorts much later. It took me a while to realize that I could actually make films. Like, I was a lover of cinema. And I just thought like, oh, this is great. I love going and I love watching. And then at some point I realized, well, wait, I could actually make my own films. And so I started off doing like doc stuff because I think it's kind of the easiest to do by yourself or with a small crew. When you get into narrative, you start having to have more of a crew in order to have a decent production value, meaning you have to have good sound, and you have to plan your shots to make sure you actually get the story, and you have to have that screenplay, and then all these people start kind of needing to be there in order to make a good product. There's people making films at all levels. Like, certainly there's people that have made films with just one person, but it's a big difference to go from something like that to, we're talking about Denis Villeneuve, whose first film I think was Incendies. No, actually that wasn't his first film. It's on Criterion Channel. I don't know. Does anyone here have Criterion Channel? If you're a movie lover, you should check it out. It costs money, but it's like, there's just all these cool movies, and they have like little features on them where you can see the directors talking about their films. And it's I mean, these days there's so much that's for free online, like Tubi, where you can it won't come up in a search, but then if you go to Tubi and search for it, there's like so many like really excellent movies that normally you'd have to pay for, but you just have to watch them with ads. But well, anyway, just seeing someone like Denis Villeneuve, who the Dune director, who worked his way up from, like his first feature was like this really quirky black and white film, and then I think Incendies is the one that kind of put him on the map, and then he kept going from there. But there's just like so many different ways, like what if you want to start small, or if you want to try to focus on writing and get into a script competition and then get connections, or there's a smaller tier of folks that are going about it that way, but you can potentially get access to the Hollywood names or proper financiers who can get you those budgets to make bigger size films. But I think shorts is a great way to start. It's the way most folks start, and you learn a lot about how to be on set and all the set etiquette. You learn about storytelling, which is probably the single most important thing. I see people sometimes get caught up in all the technical stuff and like wanting to know all the different types of cameras and lenses. Like, that stuff's great. It makes you a better director if you know it, but really I think the single most important thing you can do is understand how to tell a story. And it's something, because every story is different, you kind of are always learning in a way. But that's something that I think is important to say, because especially if as a director, there's a lot of different skills that are required in order to bring something to life. And I think, again, just like the storytelling can't be overlooked. So it starts with that script. I feel like comfortable just talking, but I can't.
That's fine. I mean, for context, for people on this call, I think we first met you around 2018 or 2019. I remember you had a short film called Magnificent that was about a blind date.
Yeah.
And then you had a film in our festival again, and I think 2020 or 2021, a film called See Me, which I love.
Yes.
I really loved See Me. If anyone, Bowen, you might remember that one maybe. It was a story of several different Black residents in the city of Portland. But what I really loved about that film, that was the spin on it, was that so many times we categorize things into certain groups and genres and approaches, and there's a lot of cliches with that. But it was a film about Black residents in Portland, but it wasn't what we would think of as a Black film. It was a film about individuals who happened to be Black, who were just going through their daily lives trying to get through the pandemic, which I thought was very refreshing an approach to not fall into a lot of the cliches that unfortunately still happen with Black cinema. So I really enjoyed your take on, and it had some amazing animation in it too, which I'm sure is a whole other endeavor to take on if you want to talk about doing animation. And then you had a dance film as well that I remember, Safe and Sound or something.
Yeah, Safe and Sound. Yeah.
And then Mother of Color. So we've gotten a chance to know you for several years now, which is wonderful. And we've also seen your skill set kind of grow through these films, as well as you're kind of each time you're trying something different and kind of growing in your skill set as well. For those films that have been a part of our festival previously, do you want to kind of touch on each one and kind of the direction you took in them with them, and kind of what you're proud of with those?
Yeah, I wish, and See Me, I need to put it online or something somewhere, because I think it's the only one. Well, it's the only one that I don't have, like, it didn't find a place to live. We didn't try, but I haven't like submitted it to something, but it's one that I'm super proud of. So that was actually, okay, let's see. You said Magnificent. There's the film that has distribution, that is the first film I made, is kind of like my most watched film probably. It's called Sister and the Brotherhood, and that was based on my experience and my producer's experience, her thesis on Black tradeswomen. I had worked as a carpenter, and I had also, experienced discrimination and like never seen a film about something like this, and wrote a short with my friend, and then we got a crew together and made it, and then it got into all these festivals, and I don't remember if we even submitted. I think I was still like learning about the world of festivals at that time, and won a bunch of awards. And that was the thing where I was like, that was really cool to like take something that, you know, you start off in a room writing, and then all of a sudden like people are inviting you to show it and like want to talk about it, and it's just this way to like take something that's on the inside and put it on the outside for everyone to see and talk about. And you know, ideas, emotions, thoughts, like that's what cinema is about, right? Feelings. So after that film, I think what was significant about that first short, I had made things before, but that was the first time where like we had done a Kickstarter campaign and had kind of a bigger budget to work with, where we could have like an actual full crew with, you know, the script supervisor and the sound person and the AC and a grip and like all the different, full camera crew and all the things. We still got like, had to round up donations from the camera, you know, Kerner camera up here, and you know, someone donated food. Like it was still just like a ton of work to get all the resources together to be able to make it. But it turned out so well. And then it was kind of like the beginning of like, oh, like there's something here, like people were willing to support me as I then made my second film, which I got a grant to do, and that was Magnificent. And that was one that it's funny because one of the stars is actually someone who was a producer on Mother of Color now, Ashley Song, and she's a producer here. She co-runs a studio called Desert Island Studio, which is a big studio here in Portland. And then also she acts and is a bunch of like plays around town. So it's kind of funny that we met so long ago. And in fact, I just redid my reel. If anyone wants to visit my website, and you can see there's like scenes with her in them out in the forest and stuff. But so that film brought its own challenges because it was filmed at Oxbow Park. So I had never done that, where we had to like get permits to film at a park, and that was very expensive. And you learn all about that system. Like we filmed in the same park where First Cow was filmed, the Kelly Reichardt film. And you have to get a permit, and the permit also includes paying for a ranger to like follow you around and be on set to make sure that you don't like destroy nature. So there's all these rules about like you can't have more than 10 people, and you can't, or if you do, it triggers like this bigger permit, and then you have to walk on trail. There's just like a bunch of rules. I'm glad those rules are there, but it was also just like, oh, this is hard. There was like a lot of things to take into account. But so, yeah, I started meeting new people. This time the crew was not just like friends of friends. It was like people that were doing this for a living. That felt like a step where I worked with a woman named Magda, who's like an AD that's worked on, you know, all these big films that have come to Portland. And she taught me a lot because she knew how to do things like, you know, even just an example of like this set etiquette stuff where you would say, okay, I want to have someone in this scene, you need to, you know, reach for the stick and pull it over. And, you know, I would say, okay, let's go, you know, action. And then she'd reach for the stick and pull it, and we'd say cut. And then everyone has to reset. The camera goes back, the focus, so you have to do the sticks, and it just takes so long. And so she was like, you know what you could do is that's called a series. So you say, okay, we're just going to do a series, which means that you don't have to go back and cut. Every time you cut, then that means you're going to have to like reset everything each time. And it just adds like a lot of time. But if you do a series, you just go, oh, still rolling, let's do that again. And then you still rolling, let's do that. You just keep telling everybody, you know, with digital, and you can do that with film, you probably, you know, maybe you don't want to keep rolling, but just there were so many like little terminology things that she taught me as we worked together. And I just learned all about like, you know, when you, on one hand, you think like, oh, filming outside, it's easier because you don't have to deal with all the lighting, and which you normally have to set up inside, but nope. When you're outside, there's like all these other, like all the elements and the weather, the clouds going, the sun going behind the clouds, and wait, where are we going to charge everything? And how far away is the bathroom? And how far do we have to carry all this gear? And so it just brought its own challenges, but it was, I mean, I love it. It's super fun. Like, I just love anytime I get to make a movie. and you've chosen like good people to have around you, then it's mostly a lot of fun, but you still have to like learn how to maneuver through these. But that film premiered at Portland International Film Festival when it still existed, and won some awards on the festival circuit as well. And then See Me is interesting because I was approached by Artist Repertory Theater, and it was during the pandemic that we shot it. And it was the beginning of like everything shutting down, and we were able to film it right before that happened. And basically a group of like Black actors and writers got together and were like, you know, we want to tell some stories. And they had written these little snippets. They were of like their daily lives at that moment during the pandemic, and they weren't sure where that was going to go. And then a producer at Artist Repertory Theater said, well, let's just figure out how to make a film. Let's figure out how to make a film using, you know, those early scribblings as the beginning of something. And so she kind of made a writer's room, and I was part of that along with this group of actors. And the thing about theater actors, like they're so good. Like they're most of the time they're very experienced. They have so much more training around story and rehearsal. Like, you know, it's just part of the theater process is really developing things and thinking about characters deeply and getting to rehearse. And theater in film, you don't have that. So if someone's only done film, they don't necessarily have that same level of training, but theater actors, you know, can bring a lot. Sometimes there's other problems that might come out of that where maybe they're acting too big, which you kind of have to do in theater, and in film you want to like, you know, you can be more subtle because the camera's right there. So, but anyway, we got to work with all these people that came together, and they had money too. That was another thing. Theater, there's a lot of money in theater, and film, it's different. You know, it's not the same as like having an institution. It's just individuals. Whereas like a whole, you know, theater company, like they're constantly fundraising and they have their audience. And so they were able to take some of the money that they were supposed to use for their season, which they could no longer have because of the pandemic, and put that into a film. And so we had like a really small crew. We had to learn all these rules about how to film during the pandemic. And, you know, I think it's the actors union, SAG-AFTRA, had all these zones, I think is what it was called, where, you know, zone 1 is like the actors, and those are the people that take off their masks at some point. And then like zone 2, I think that was like me and some of the people that were essential to be in the room. And then zone 3 were the people that would fly in between takes to like touch up makeup or whatever. But like you could only have so many people in the room at a time, and everyone, you know, that was at the stage where everything had to be like wiped down, and you know, it all changed. Like we know now that it's not necessarily transmitted as much by touch, but like we had one person on set whose sole job was to just go around and like spray and wipe things. And, you know, you couldn't touch something without someone, you know, that's not yours to touch, someone else has to touch that. You know, there are just like a ton of rules, and like changing masks and having the right mask. It was just like a whole other layer to it. But because it was like this incredible thing, and you know, we knew it was literally like the day before everything was going to get shut down. Everyone was just like hyper focused, and we filmed it very quickly. And the whole thing, from like writing it to developing it to filming it, and then even the editing process, like it took maybe 3 months, which is the fastest I've ever worked. Like for most shorts, you know, the writing process alone can take a bunch of time, and then, you know, figuring out how you're going to get the money and the crew together, and then the shooting, and then the editing, and the color, sound, like all the post process, and where's it going to screen next, like all of that. It usually takes a good amount of time. And this happened very, very quickly. Everyone was like super motivated. And then Portland International Film Festival, they actually invited us to premiere there. So they found out about it. It was a really unique experience, and you know, we got to use a really fancy camera from Kerner Camera. It's an Alexa, which is like the prize. Like, it was the first time that it wasn't the first time, but it was just like it was a really great camera to get to work with. Yeah, it was really cool to have had this amazing experience, and then also to you know, see its reception, and also like win some awards with that film too. And yeah, I think the writing, it goes back to the writing, which was really excellent. And it was just a really unique experience to get to do that and be part of that project.
Does anyone have any questions for Dawn? I want to make sure that people get a chance to chime in if this is supposed to be kind of a group dialogue here. So
Yeah, and I can drink some waters. I'm not like talking so much.
I'll just say for those that haven't seen it, See Me is a wonderful story that was very refreshing during the pandemic when everyone was just trying to get through each day. Let's remember back, that wasn't too long ago, of just trying to figure out, okay, we're stuck at home, what are we going to do? And it was a film essentially about that, of several different people around Portland, all of whom happen to be Black, doing what they do just to try to survive the day and finding their own little motivations in life and the things that make them happy while we're all confined in our own little quarantined zones. And it had a fun little animated sequence that incorporated one of the actors' green screen and dealt with the anxiety of trying to go outside and deal with the outside world and all of that. So it was a very refreshing film where in the middle of it, we had several films that addressed the pandemic, but to have one that looked at it from not just big picture of, oh, this global issue that's going on, but just like, yeah, how do you get through your day? Just to get kind of a very casual, low-key approach of here are the things that we're doing just to kind of enjoy each day as we go.
Absolutely. It was much smaller and more intimate and more relatable for that reason too. Dawn, I know you and I haven't met, and I also have just moved here, so I hadn't seen any of your stuff prior to today, but I went through and I watched all of your past submissions for the
Okay.
and except for Mother of Color, I didn't get to that one. It was a little bit longer than the other. I really, really loved See Me. It was so beautiful too, the way that the colors and the lighting. I remember the one shot where I forget the character's name, but she's standing there by the door and then the light is coming in through the window on the door and shining on her. I just thought was so cool. And then all the staging too. And I absolutely loved the animation break and how that looked. What made you want to go for an animation break, and how did you go about making that happen?
It was always part of the plan. Like it was in the writing. So in the writer's room, we talked about this idea of showing this vision of Black joy and a character who was afraid to go out in the world, maybe for multiple reasons at that time, because it was also during the protests that were happening here in Portland. And there was like a day when a group was coming that was gonna just like cause trouble in town, and people were kind of afraid to go outside, and all of that was kind of encompassed in this character who was afraid to go outside, and she has this moment or this vision where they imagine that they go outside and it's this joyful, beautiful experience in the outdoors of the Pacific Northwest. And I worked with Aki Ruiz is the name of the animator who was in the writer's room with us, and they're just like incredibly talented. They do their own like cartoons and illustrations, and had done some animations, but I don't know if they'd ever done anything quite like this before. And just the way, what's really cool about their animations is they're really good at the way they're using light in them. They're not like these simple drawings. And you're just reminding me, because I should just like put that film out. I circled back to Artist Repertory Theater and was like, what do you want to do with this? Because in some ways I feel like it's their film because they hired me to do it, unlike most of my other films where I was kind of the originator. And I think they would be okay with it. So I should probably just like put it out in the world. Okay. Yeah, and I hadn't ever done that before. So it takes so long. Like it's deceptively simple to see these images, and just like seeing like how long it takes to do, especially something as advanced as these particular illustrations. I could actually put something up, or send people a link or something to watch it. But it just is actually, yeah, maybe we could do that. Would y'all want to watch this little just the animation?
I think that would be great.
Uh,
Go for it.
Logan, you might have to be able to share screen with Don. But yeah, if you've got a quick little clip you can show, that would be great.
Yeah, it's just a clip. Let's see.
Just like Logan, myself, and talking about, oh, this animation is great. Everyone else is like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, right. I was like, we're talking about this thing. Okay, let's see. So I want to share. Shoot, that says Firefox unknown. Is that it? Desktop advanced. Firefox unknown. I don't know if that's the right window. Something weird is happening. Normally it shows you. Because I've been using Google Meet too much lately. Let's see, is that my only, I mean, that must be it. Let's see, I hope I'm not sharing you something else. Okay. Oh, now I gotta allow. Firefox is there. Zoom, there. Oh, it's gonna, I'm probably gonna have to like restart or something after this. Dang it, I wish this was easier. I wonder if it'd be easier if I sent it to you.
Maybe. Try it out.
Kurt, or who's the host?
That'd be me.
Yeah, Logan is host. I'm pulling the film up in Film Freeway right now.
Oh, okay, great. So I can tell you, it's like 1734.
Okay.
And then it ends at like 1950.
Let me see if I can share screen.
There we go.
Okay, is everybody seeing this?
Yep, we got it.
Okay.
Yep, I see it.
So this character has been afraid to go outside, and then, oh wait, maybe back up just a tiny bit. Yeah, right there, right there.
Yep, there's that shot.
Thank you so much. I feel like I'm making progress too, you know? Thank you.
When you went full screen.
Oh, maybe it won't work.
I've lost video and stuff.
Oh, okay. Did I go full? I might have messed
You know
up.
what you could do? You could just advance it and people could see some of the screens.
Okay, it's playing now.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah. The window, it works good. I think it was when you entered full screen that it froze.
Yeah, don't do full screen.
Oh, you have to click those things just so the sound is there. I can't hear it. We had a composer make some music
we're
too.
losing sound. Got video.
There's those, when you share it, there's these two little boxes you have to check, optimize clip for sound, and like you unshare it and then share it again, and or you can just watch it. Yes. Look at how beautiful that is. Look at the light. It's amazing. It's like very joyous moment. Like people were crying in the theater. Like it's
Found that when first watching this film that this was the most striking part for me.
yeah.
And you're right. And about the light, that was something that I noticed in a couple of shots when she's in the forest. You can see the light shining down through the trees and stuff. And I just thought that was such a cool detail.
We'll see. So what program were they using for the animation? Out of curiosity.
I actually don't know. I would see drawings and, we would talk about like what the story's doing and what the, how the music was going to go. And
so who did do the animation then?
Aki Ruiz is the name I was saying. Aki Ruiz was the animator.
Okay. Is he just a local guy up there for you?
Yeah, they're local here. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
So wait, and stop share. So yeah, so very cool to kind of incorporate an animated sequence right in the middle of a film to show how this character who has anxiety about being agoraphobic and not being able to leave the house, and the added compound of the pandemic where no one's able to leave the house, and as you mentioned, also the protests happening in Portland that are compounding issues and anxiety. And then you get this wonderful animated sequence that is very uplifting and upbeat. It's like, this person's actually going to do it. They're finally, you kind of get a sense of the character a little bit more. So I loved how you took that, rather than just showing them kind of nervous at a door, but kind of give this whole sort of dream sequence of this great uplifting sequence. And I love it anytime that films can kind of cut away to a whole different style, be it animation or stop motion or something, but just randomly cuts into a whole different type of filmmaking in the midst of is really cool.
Yeah, it was, I had never done that before. And then to get to work with such a talented artist was incredible too. And then to have this other layer of working with a composer to talk about what how the score was going to come into play there for that piece and bring us back into it as well. So and then actually the last shots of that scene where then they look out, that we actually filmed those later than everything else. The cinematographer and I went out and did that. We also then went and got all the exteriors. It's very typical to, you focus when you have the actors on set to focus on the scenes, and then later to come back and do the kind of pickup stuff where you're seeing like shots of the city. And we happened to get lucky in capturing people washing off graffiti after a protest, and just some of the many scenes. I love the beginning. I don't know, there's so many things we can watch about that film or talk about. But the beginning is just shots of Portland and what it looked like at that time, focusing on between the pandemic and the protests, just the city was changed for sure.
Does anyone else have questions for Don that you want to chime in on?
Anything from you?
Yeah, I don't want to dominate the conversation. I want to make sure others can be a part of this too. I already know Don. I've had plenty of opportunities to talk.
I'll ask a question. I know you mentioned the process of it, from beginning to end with the process of filmmaking, being kind of at the head of it all. How does that change your perspective of the film, or what the storytelling process? How does that how did you how did you change? How did it impact you in that way? I'm just curious.
With my feature or just in general?
Just anything, any one of your maybe just your biggest feature film. How did that impact you? When you're going through the process, what were things that were going through your mind at the beginning versus what happened at the end? It was just oh, I'm so glad this is over, or were you wow, this is amazing, I learned blah 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 blah.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with the feature film, by the time we got to it, after spending so much time, fundraising is so hard. I hate fundraising, but it's essential if you want to be a filmmaker. And then the writing and just, building the crew, figuring out your locations, building a schedule, which was a tough puzzle. All that stuff. By the time you finally get to set, it is this moment of excitement. Everyone has come together. We had about 30 people on set every day. That's the biggest project that I'd ever been on. I think for See Me, it was maybe 12 of us total, which was also at the time the biggest that I'd been on, each one kind of getting bigger. And then I thought it might feel a lot of pressure because you are the center of it. You're the heart of it in a lot of ways, especially if you're a writer, director. And yes, you want, your producers are co-owning it with you and they're at the top, and, our actor as well, carried a huge burden in terms of everyone, every scene hinging on their performance and their ability to be there for us. But for me, I felt deep gratitude and excitement. I wasn't really focused on the fear. It's just, you're in it, you're working crazy hours. All the people at the top are working more than the 12-hour day that everyone has agreed to. And, you're making sure you're prepared, coming in with my storyboards. I'd already met with the cinematographer multiple times. We walked through everything. It's unusual because, or maybe what's hard about it is that on one hand, there's all this logistics, right? There's all the like the schedule, you know, the producers, they're supposed to have their head in that. I'm supposed to be focused on story, but I also have a bunch of logistics in my head around, you know, how am I going to work with the actor to make sure that we're able to get the performance that we need and they understand the scene, and how am I going to talk with the cinematographer about this stuff? How am I going to talk with the makeup person? You know, they were just like, everyone is looking to you to give them the information so that you can protect the story and make sure the story is being told as you want to. And so, I mean, I was exhausted and it took a toll on my family because I was gone so much and just like constantly working for that whole period of time. My wife and I have a daughter who was 7 at the time, and my dad and stepmother came into town and they basically just like hung out with her and like helped out a lot so that I could do this and just be immersed in it. We still joke though that like I got a movie and then in exchange for this, my wife got a dog because I had been resistant to get a dog for a long time, but like we worked out a deal, who's now also my dog, but I had not been a dog lover. But it was just this like, you don't want to, you have to be there and available for everyone, but you also have to really keep your head in the story. You have to be imagining, how is this going to cut together? Like it's a privilege to be able to shoot in order. Most films do not shoot in the order of the story. And so then you have to know, you know, for practical reasons, right? Like we have this location on this day, and that's like, you know, 50 minutes into the film. So how are you going to, you know, you have to be thinking about like, what was happening right before, what was happening right after, what's the tone in this scene? Just so that you can make sure to communicate that and see that that comes across. And it's just inevitably, has anyone seen this movie? What's it called? Is it called, it's not like Living in Oblivion. It's a Steve Buscemi is a filmmaker. Does anyone know what film I'm talking about? It's like Oblivion is in the title. It's a really funny film and it's a good one to watch if you want to see what indie film looks like, because in the first like 5 or 10 minutes, they're just trying to get this one shot, but like something goes wrong, like every single take, you know, and then like everyone has to like reset. You're just like, you're really rooting for them to like finally get the scene done. But like something, it's just like one little thing. Something was off on the sound. Oh, the boom was in the shot. Oh, the actor forgot the line. You know, they're like every single person has a role to play in every single scene. And if anyone messes up, which is gonna happen, then you're like starting over again. And it's time. Like with indie film, you don't have time. That's one of the biggest differences, is that you can't do more than 2 takes sometimes. Because that means your whole schedule would be like much longer if you could do that. And some scenes just take more time, whether there's choreography to it or it's emotional and you need time for the actor, or, oh, we're gonna have to do a lot with the lighting on this one, so it's gonna take even longer to set up, you know. And then there's like this tension between, you know, me wanting it to look as good as the cinematographer wants it to look, but then also I don't want to give them as much. They will take all the time in the world. Like they will be setting up those lights for forever if they're given the chance, because they want it to look perfect, which is great. I want them to push for that, but I want more takes with my actor to make sure that I have more to choose from for later. So anyway, there's like all this logistics and stuff, but I didn't have time to think. Like you're just constantly moving every day, every night, come home, look at what's going to happen the next day, look at what we just shot, you know, talk to people about different things that are coming up. You know, do we make sure is this happening? Do we get these props? Do we, you know, what's going on with wardrobe for these people? So it's a very engrossing thing, but it was also just really fun because again, it's this 30 people and we became like a family because it's crazy. Everyone's just like also tired, but like in it with you. And it's just it's hard to describe it, but it's a thrill. It's a thrill for me, you know, like if you love film, anytime you get to make a film, it's a complete thrill.
Was that Living in Oblivion from 1995 that you were talking about?
That sounds right. Yes. Yeah.
Steve Buscemi and James LeGros and
yes.
Peter Dinklage. It's Peter Dinklage's very first film.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. That is the beginning of that film is really great to watch because I mean they're kind of making fun of indie film for sure, but like just they every single take, like something goes wrong and they can't ever get to it. And it's a good representation of what it can be like.
So we've got about 20 minutes left, and thank you, Don, for joining us and being a part of this. And typically, when we get down to about 15, 20 minutes left, we go sort of around the table and give everyone a chance to chime in. I know we haven't had a ton of questions tonight, and that's okay. But I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to kind of have a chance to have their say before we say goodnight. I see Clint just actually chimed in with a question in the chat. So he asked, suppose you're evaluating a very junior person's reel with an emphasis on motion graphics and 3D. What kinds of things are you expecting to see in a reel?
I mean, so motion graphics comes into play where I work. I don't use as much motion graphics really in film other than like credits or something. But that's something that we do. We often do it in-house. I guess, that's a good question. I have to think about that because I'm not often like evaluating motion graphics, not necessarily in a position to that, but I know from my own experience because I can do basic motion graphics. And then when I started working at Funnelbox, I was like, whoa, they really, it's a whole other level when somebody does this where they're like creating their own little, mini, I don't even have the language to talk about it. Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that question as well. I guess, I mean, to me, when I think of the idea of a reel, I think someone that might be story minded, because even if for motion graphics, you're focused on there's like the technical side to it, like the smoothness and how is it flowing. But it's also like, are you thinking about the story and can you tell a story even in your reel? Because it all comes back to storytelling for me. But I'm sure there's like, you could find online someone's ideal of like what the best type of motion graphics reel is. But because oftentimes it's just like, here's some cool stuff that I've made. And it's just like one thing after the other. But how could you like combine them together in a way that's interesting or feels like you're telling a story about who you are and what you want to do? That's my 2 cents when I think about reels in general.
And I would just add to that, Clint, if you're trying to put together something that's examples of your best work, just try to show some variety of the different kinds of animation or graphics that you're able to do in short little clips. You don't want it to be too long. But
Yeah,
you
that's true.
want it to be just long enough to be able to demonstrate the kind of work that you're capable of doing.
Like 2 minutes or less.
Yeah. Does that help, Clint, or do you have a follow-up to that? Okay, he said that helps. Great.
Yeah, thanks.
So I see Kat's got a jet. Kat, do you have a quick final thought you want to share before you leave, or just kind of leave it with the chat?
Nice to meet you, Kat. Either way.
She says she's got to go, but thank you, Kat, for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Want to make sure everyone else gets a chance to kind of chime in as well too. Logan, you just want to take people around the table or pick people on the Zoom call?
Sure. I actually did have one final question. Well, I get maybe two. It was about Magnificent, the other one that I watched today. And first of all, you said before that you could only have 10 people on set when we're on set, in the park when you were filming. Which roles were that? I mean, it would have been you and the 2 actors, and like who else was there?
The AD, the cinematographer, Jasmine Carsey, we had a props person or / production designer. We had the cinematographer had an AC assistant camera, and then I feel like there was another camera like maybe like a camera PA who would be like the runner to like go and get the batteries and their different lenses and stuff. Sound person. I would have to go back and look at the credits to make sure I'm not missing somebody. We had a producer who couldn't be there because she was like the 11th person, and we decided it was okay if she kind of hung back. I'm just thinking about people on set. I can't think of. Oh no, we did have one of our there were 2 producers, and one of the producers was there. I already forgot his name because I haven't worked with him because he moved to LA. I don't know. That's my. That's
Good.
about it.
When I think of a set for even a smaller film, there's like dozens or at least a dozen people, and it feels very like limiting to have to keep it down to your 10 most essential, and so I was
Yes.
much of a an obstacle that was.
Well, at the time, it was still that was still just more, I mean, maybe we did have that many, but this was like professional crew. So for me, it was a step up in that sense. Like they might have been not necessarily more people, but it was like people that were had more skills to bring.
Totally. And then my other question about Magnificent was, how'd you get that shot with the deer? Did you scare it away? Did you?
Okay, so the deer in Oxbow Park are like everywhere, and they're just like, I'm sure it's not good, but they're very like human friendly, and they were just like, when they weren't, we didn't see them all the time, but in some cases we saw them, we like went to go, we're like, oh, get the camera, they're out, and they would just like come up, like they were right there. It wasn't,
Yeah.
it wasn't that difficult.
Seemed like it was a telephoto lens, so you must have gotten pretty close and it didn't scare it away or anything. I just thought that was interesting. I was like, oh.
No, yeah, like we ran to go get the camera to like make sure. I feel like we were doing something, we were like looking at something and we were like, there they are. We like went and got everything and came back.
Right. Bowen, do you have any questions?
Oh yeah, here it is. It's all good. I did have some questions, but I've been gone for a couple of things, so I'll just watch the recording. But I just want to say, Don, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really insightful hearing your thoughts and perspectives on just the filmmaking process. And as someone also who's still a bit more on the development process of building my own capacity and ability to appreciate filmmaking, it's very nice to hear from you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Karen, any final thoughts?
I second and third and fourth that. It was really nice to meet you, Don, even though it's virtually. One thing that I don't want to call myself an outsider because everyone else around here has worked in the industry and I have not. I was really appreciative of some of the things that are basic to filmmaking that you mentioned, like for instance, that the film is not always shot in order of the story. And for somebody like me who's learning about filmmaking, those kinds of things are really crucial to understand. And so I really appreciate you bringing those things up. Cool.
Yeah. I think I probably assumed that it was too before I started doing this. And if you have enough money, it can be. It's a privilege to get to shoot. Or it's nicer, right? It's easier to track the story for the actors, and it's better for the continuity of like, oh, your hair in this scene looks the same in the next scene, as opposed to like 5 days later, let's make it try to look the same,
To jump on that is that I just finished. I wrapped for a film that actually filmed chronologically or sequentially in terms of like the sequence of the narrative, and in fact, that's a luxury when it comes to filmmaking, and that it's something that not every film gets to do that, and very often there's you have to do a lot of different jumps. But when you do have that chance, and like the very first thing we filmed were actually flashback scenes, which makes it even more chronologically in line than one might think, because the flashbacks are technically what happens first.
Exactly.
So having the chance to do that, it definitely affects, at least from the actor's perspective, it affects the actor's mentality, especially if you're doing more dramatic or character-driven work. It affects that sort of dynamic that you can have with your other performers and just with how well you engage with the scene itself, especially as you go through the actual practical, like the timeline process of going through a film shoot process of like the first scenes are when you are freshest and like when you are just starting off. So there's always invigoration throughout the process, but that's when everyone is just right on it. It's just like, okay, we're just starting. But more towards the back end, especially when you're reserving, of course, the dramatic climaxes and different things towards the end of the film, that you've been on this journey with these other performers, with these people, and with the rest of the crew, and that it really can help bolster a performance. Sometimes it might, cause a little bit more difficulty because there is a bit more pressure to that. But at the same time, is that when it's organized and executed well, it can really go a long way.
And if you think about it, Karen, with a film that even a short film may have 4 or 5 or more different locations and different actors involved, it makes sense to pick that location and be in that one location and shoot all of the scenes that are going to be shot in that location and have everyone in their proper costume and makeup and lighting, rather than shoot it and then go someplace else and then come back again and set up all the lights again. You know, you're going to pick those locations from a logistics standpoint. If you have a location like Growler Guys, and you have multiple scenes that take place at Growler Guys, it makes a lot more sense to film all of those scenes at once when you're there, and you can just quickly adjust lighting and costumes and all that, then be like, okay, we're going to shoot here, and then we're going to go away, and then we're going to come back again to Growler Guys and totally set up everything all over again, get everyone back into costume and makeup and lighting all over again, shoot the one scene, leave, and then come back. No, you shoot it when you're there. And so you go from location, location, location. And that's why most things get shot out of sequence. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, it does totally. And I mean, I understand that. I think what's really important to me is that the average moviegoer doesn't think about those things. You know, they just see it as presented, and they don't realize, and this is what I appreciated Don bringing up, is that a lot of times if you only have a place to shoot at on a specific day and a specific time, you're going to shoot all the scenes that you've got there. I mean, that makes total sense. But I appreciated that you reminded me that that is an element to filmmaking itself. And when you
I mean, we don't want you thinking about the order of the shots and stuff when you're watching a movie. So yeah, that makes sense, right? Yeah.
Moviegoer or a film watcher, you don't think about those things. It's just, I mean, it's just a natural progression of the story, and you don't think about, oh, I bet you they filmed all of those scenes that was taken at Growler Guys on the same day, you know.
Right. Yeah.
People don't know that, but like I said, I was really appreciative that you brought that up, because that is a really important element to filmmaking.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
As filmmakers, we just want you to enjoy the whole story of all of the elements kind of coming together. It's like, you know, your perspective changes if you're in the back of the kitchen and you're making the sausage. You want people to just enjoy the food. You don't necessarily want to see how the sausage is made, right?
Exactly.
I want to say I appreciate your time and listening to your process of how you put your films together. And a couple of quick questions. Have you ever worked as an actor or worked in any of your own films? No?
No, I haven't. I've been, actually, y'all know, because he's screened down there, Rollin Stafford is a filmmaker that has screened down there a few times, and he's for whatever reason, he keeps asking me to be like an actor in some of his, I mean, it's like background. I played a director actually in one of his shorts where I don't think I ever saw the finished thing, but I just was like cut or something. And but he's a local actor who he gets on big film sets, and he's been like a stand-in often, like that person that stands on set when the actual big name actor is like in the trailer still getting their makeup done, but because they're standing there, the camera can kind of start to compose the shot, and they could do some blocking and thinking. He does that often, but he's also a writer and director, and he just had he's been on this zombie kick. I don't know, he just had something at Klamath Film Festival, but he was just he was in a proof of concept that I shot also. Like, we've just been kind of trading, having like these little, you know, tiny roles in each other's, and he's asked me to do some stuff. And there was one I was reading he had me reading a Hillary Clinton book or something, like at a bus stop, or just like a background person. That's the extent of it. So no, I have not ever, but I thought about taking acting classes, because that is a recommended thing for a director to better understand actors. And I've read some books and I've learned through doing it. I have actor friends, but that's not quite the same as like being in the hot seat kind of. So it's on my list.
In a lot of acting classes, there were a lot of directors in the classes. You know,
so you've taken acting classes?
I have been for a while.
Okay, I missed that. Okay.
Los Angeles. So I was in acting classes down there.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, no, I am indebted to actors. I think it's it's an incredible vocation that, you know, it's how they're the thing that helps us, you know, feel and understand the story. So it's critical. I'm always indebted to finding the right
Hitchcock
folks.
is in almost every one of his movies.
What about them?
No,
Alfred-
Alfred Hitchcock would appear in every single one of his films.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Like The Photo and
Right, even if he's drew a
Dialogue
thing.
for Murder and yeah. He's had some walk-on ones. I like the idea of just being in The Photo though too. That's kind of a fun.
Roland has been a friend of the film festival going back to about 2018, 2019. He won Best Northern Short for his film Zombie Walk in
Yes, the zombies.
2022. He always has a zombie movie for us every year. And his most recent film that's coming out this
Shot.
year, feature film Backseat Driver, was shot in Klamath Falls. See,
Yes.
we got it down here last October. So we had a very frantic pace for that, and a number of people ended up with Klamath Film ended up working on that film. So that was great. In fact,
That's cool.
John hasn't had a chance to chime in, but John is close with Anthony, who is a regular at our meetings. Wasn't able to make it tonight, but Anthony ended up being a PA on Roland's film.
Cool.
We're looking forward to seeing the finished product of that. Roland, we finally guilt tripped Roland into coming to Klamath, not just for our festival, but to actually make a movie down here.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think he was on my set like the day before he then went down for the festival. So he's a friend. I mean, we see each other at screenings and we've been together multiple times, so it's kind of fun to be in each other's stuff.
John, do you have? I know you.
Well, I'm just sorry I'm a little late to the party. Got kind of held up at school.
No worries.
Teaching at one of the local high schools, teaching digital media arts or digital arts. I'm just trying to get their feet wet a little bit. So the last project was actually with Blender, doing a little bit of 3D animation, at least, modeling and just a little bit. And then I just brought in an online free character that was already rigged and everything, so they could just see how to, it's just like a little anime girl thing. And I said, now just make her jump, it's like have her squat down, jump, and then land, and then stand up again for their final. And I even showed them how to do it, but the whole point is now you do it. and because it's a little bit tricky, but I just wanted to see how it was to do everything. So, because I'm trying to build up my army of artists because I want to make a cyberpunk movie. So I'm working at the high school level right now. But
Nice.
no, I appreciate it. I wish I could have to go back and check out some of your stuff. I'm sorry, I kind of came late here, and I usually bring Anthony, and it's like I came home and I'm like, I'm forgetting something. What is it? I'm like, oh crap, it's Thursday. Thursday. And I was like, no, dang it. So I wasn't going to be able to get him in time, so I just logged on. So anyways, it's good to hear of the different things. I mean, appreciate your insights. So, more, keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. I look forward to seeing the cyberpunk film.
Yeah, me too.
I also need to send a special thank you to John and Anthony for helping me load my U-Haul a couple weeks ago when I was preparing to move to Eugene. So thank you for the added muscle for lifting all of the heavy stuff into the.
No, it's just the least we could do. Kurt's done all the heavy lifting around here for all the Klamath film and the Comic Cons, and you can't just. It's unimaginable the amount of work he's done. I think he looked at his like Apple watch or whatever for that Comic Con. He literally walked 50 miles. 50, not 15.
I finished Comic Con with 132,000 steps on my Fitbit.
Wow.
I was at almost 40,000 by 8 a.m. It was kind of insane.
Wow.
And then Clint, do you have any final words that you want to share?
I guess.
Either a question or just final thoughts before we call it a night?
No, I'm glad it came out. Like I said, like the previous meeting I went to was in like 2020. I'm happy to be back. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, come back again. We do this every month.
Yeah, it says you're supposed to join after 2 meetings, so like I paid the $25 like a couple of minutes ago. I don't know if it's shown.
Yeah. So Logan, the email did come through, so we have a new membership. So
All right.
All right, good. Welcome to the party, Clint.
And Don, we'll end with you with if you have any final thoughts or advice or things that you would like to share before we say goodnight. And also thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your experiences and wisdom with us.
Yeah, no, thank you. This is really lovely. I wish I had a local film club to talk films with. I mean, not just about the making, but just like talking about movies. It's my favorite thing. So, thanks for having me. Yeah, I hope to make it down there. Maybe I'll submit my weird little proof of concept for next
one
year.
thing, Don.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite films? Just so we kind of get a flavor of your background in them in general.
Gosh,
or what's inspired you, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about like recently. I hate saying favorite because it's like
just things that are memorable. I shouldn't say maybe memorable to you, or things that
what
really
do I
learned
own?
something
What
from.
Blu-rays do I own? I recently purchased Lone Star. These are old movies. I recently purchased Broadcast. I own Her. We were just talking about that. I own Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. If you want to talk queer films, Desert Hearts, Dee Ree's Pariah. I mean, I watch all kinds of movies. So I just think of it. Somebody described this once. I can leave you with this. The idea that art in general is a trigger to experience, and I think of film the same way. Like there's some movies I watch because I want to study them or I want to evaluate them. But even if it's some movie that's just like, terrible by a critic's standard, like there's always something in there that I've chosen to watch it for a reason. There's something about it that I want to enjoy or connect with. And, I'm not so rigid about like, this is a bad film and this is a good film. It's more just like, what do I connect with around it? What kind of experience is it bringing me? And there's all kinds of films that I might watch for one reason or another. So, but I listed a few for you. So.
All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, that's my take. Dune's pretty good. I like this Dune too, by the way.
Yeah, I actually just saw it this last weekend, and I was like, I felt like I got my price of admission money's worth.
Totally.
It's probably been a while since I felt like a movie is to that level. So yeah, but I'm actually really hopeful because there's a couple other movies or things I wanted to see get made, and one was Hyperion by Dan Simmons, and I guess. And I looked online, and Bradley Cooper has been trying to get this going for like the last decade or something. And because of the success of Dune, it looks like Warner Brothers might actually put this and do this. It's an amazing.
With Bradley Cooper?
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's going to play a part in it, but he's been the driving force wanting to get it made. And the other one I wanted to kind of see, which is a fun little novella series, because the Hyperion was, a novel series, about 4 books, pretty incredible. I got to give the guy credit, And then the other one was the Murderbot series by Martha Wells, I believe. And then I looked, I mean, it's just like a little novella series. It's kind of fun, kind of like the life of a robot that kind of went a little bit rogue, but still is kind of afraid to get too rogue, So it's like more autonomous, but still has to kind of play like they're not. So it's just a really kind of fun, the robot experience in life. And but it looks like Apple TV. I looked that one up, and Apple TV's picking that one up. I'm like, okay, great. I don't have to worry about those. Somebody else is doing them. Yay! And I can just work on my thing. So I hope to see some of these things. I hope hopefully you've got some things that you're wanting to see come forth too. And yeah, just let us know if there's other things you're trying to get out.
Yeah, if you're on Instagram, you can find me on Instagram. That's usually that's my social media of choice for
Okay.
people I don't know.
Instagram.
Dawn Jones Redstone. Simple enough. But thanks again for having me. I gotta go too, but get my daughter to bed. But take care, everybody.
Thank you,
Great.
Don, so much for joining us. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yes, thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.